Welcome to NovelBot. This is the audiobook of Rebirth of a Genius. Creator Destroyer Chapter 141 to 150. The next day, the whole city was in turmoil. Marquis summoned the whole city for an assembly in the stadium where Sam made his demonstration for his weapon shop opening. Almost all the citizens gathered. Marquis stood on the stage with a desolate look. He took a look at all the audience and took a deep breath before saying, "Yesterday, I found that there are many officials of my second son, working with an evil organization who operate the illegal prostitution, drugs, assassinations and all kinds of evil deeds. After looking into the matter and obtaining proper evidence, I personally raided the place, and after confirming the truth I executed them immediately. So, I want to say one thing: those who harm the society and the citizens of the Empire, no matter who it is, they shall be executed, and I hereby order all the remaining members of this organization to surrender. If you surrender, you will be given a chance after doing your time in the jail. If you don't, then you better pray that we will not catch you or else you will be executed on the spot." After a big applause, he dismissed the assembly and went back to the Marquis mansion. "How dare you kill my son? And you dare to label him as a part of some evil organization? You sick bastard. Did those bitches pillow talk you do this? He doesn't even compete for your position, and he didn't even go against that Zeke's business. Why did you kill him? Is it because he doesn't benefit you anyway? You bastard." As soon as he entered his personal room, he was hit by a barrage of words from his screaming second wife. He didn't know what to say and just stayed silent. He has obtained enough evidence to convince her, but he was also afraid that if she can bear that heartbreak. After all three kids are closer to their mothers than him, and that is even more true in case of the second son. "Why are you not talking?" Pa, she slapped him in his face directly. Only at this moment did he lift his head to look at her face. She is a beautiful woman, and so are the two other sisters, but of three of them, she is the gentlest one. Of all three of his wives, the first one is a person who is too willful, and the third one is too scheming. Out of all three, the second wife is the only one who acts normally, and now she is not like her usual self at all. He finally opened his mouth. "You know me better than that. I might not love you, but that is also the case with your two sisters. If I have to be blunt, you three are my liabilities which I cannot get rid of. As for the children, I treat them equally and I take my responsibility as a father. Don't even raise the question of me being biased or swayed by pillow talk. You should know better than anyone how many times you three have a chance to do pillow talk, to even have a chance to sway me. As for your son's death, I only have one thing to say: he only brought this upon himself. He mixed with wrong people and targeted the worst person he could possibly mess with. If I give you any more details, your heart won't be able to take it. Just deny everything and live in peace." He didn't even wait for her reaction after finishing his piece. He has a lot of things to do, and one of them is meeting Sam. So, he sent a messenger to arrange a meeting. It is not suitable for both of them to meet openly. The announcement he made is not detailed, and many officials are still having speculations on what really happened. If he meets a rank 5 artisan, then there might be someone who can draw some seemingly impossible theories. They decided to meet at a secret room under the Marquis mansion. It has an underground path connecting to the woods. Sam and Watt went out of the city and went to spot where this underground entrance was. After walking for about an hour, they entered a dimly lit room where Marquis is sitting alone. He gestured Sam to sit, and after a brief silence, he finally spoke. "After you left the place, I found something over there." He took out 3 spatial rings. Sam could easily guess what they are. The 3 spatial rings of the black water. One with the rewards, the second one with the spiritual stones, which is also the income of the organization, the third one is the resources. Sam didn't take them immediately and just looked at Marquis, who took out around 30 spatial rings and placed them on the table. "These are the spatial rings of the people you killed. It also includes the ring of the old man. But I took my son's ring. I hope you don't mind." Sam didn't talk and gestured Watt to collect the rings. "Where are the scrolls?" he asked. Marquis placed another spatial ring on the table. "I read the contents. I never heard of this organization before." Sam didn't say anything and just took all the spatial rings and stood up. "Is there anything else?" he asked as he looked at Marquis. "Nothing. I will just add his name to the eliminated candidates, and you won't have to worry about those guys targeting you. As for going to the dukedom, we need to start after 15 days, and after going there, please do take caution against General Spark. He is the father of my wives, and with your beef with Zeke, my first wife might have already given him a message, and he might target you." "Thanks," Sam said simply and left with Watt. Marquis slumped in his chair. He wanted to see how Sam is doing. He wanted to see if he is at least a bit nervous to meet a stronger person whose son was killed by him. He wanted to see if he is at least a bit afraid. But from what he saw, he is not even a least bit afraid. He is as confident as he always was. After the meeting, Sam and Watt left the place. He didn't check the things in the spatial ring immediately. He knew for sure that Marquis wouldn't do anything funny by pocketing some loot. When he came out of the tunnel and went to the woods, he went back to his mansion and holed up inside the divine dimension. He has a new thought, and this can be commercialized in the Dukem city. So, he immediately went inside the tower. After last night, he pulled himself together and he is already thinking of new projects. Apart from that, he is also thinking of doing some research on cultivation. Even though the Marquis said that the phase was cancelled, there might be a reason for them to assign a whole 6 months just for studying. So, he can be occupied for next 15 days, till they started their journey, or rather the 150 days in the tower. He checked the spatial ring of the meteorite sands, and he got a delightful surprise. There are more than 100 cubes of meteorite sand, and most of it is gray meteorite sand, which occupied more than 80 cubes. The remaining is the silver meteorite sand. Even though he can do a lot of things with the silver meteorite sand, the gray meteorite sand is not enough. He planned a lot of things for that, and the plan is a large one. But he has one application for this gray sand, and that is to make an anvil and some hammers of different sizes. After making that, he forged for more than 15 days inside the tower, and the rest of the days, he just stayed in the library, and occasionally, he went to the simulation room to test some theories. He carefully studied numerous cultivation arts. He studied the circulation of various meridians, and the effects of the spiritual energy circulation on the autonomy. Soon, he was hooked. These cultivation techniques opened a new world for him, and when he studied the cultivation-specific battle techniques, he was even more amused. His thirst for knowledge started acting up. He started experimenting with the simulations on how these things work, because, if he can understand these things, he could open a new door for myriad of possibilities. He has already planned on making use of his technology along with this cultivation. He almost forgot the rest of the world and got too involved with these theories. But there is one thing he is unsatisfied with, and that is there are too many racks of divine wills that has information with cultivation techniques, cultivation-specific battlefields. He was disappointed that he was unable to continue with his exploration. 14 days later, Sam came out of the tower. He is very reluctant to come out. But he has to move even if he doesn't want to do so. When he came back, all of them looked at him with surprise. Sam is not like his usual self. His eyes that are looking at the surroundings doesn't seem to be looking at them. He seemed to be thinking about something entirely different, and he kept on muttering something like a madman. His confidence was nowhere to be seen. He didn't even have a proper attention on his surroundings, as he walked towards the lake with his lost senses. Only after he jumped into the pool did he calm down a bit. This is Sam on his own. It has been a long time since he was like this, and it is extremely difficult to get out of this state of mind. But he never hated this madman state. Not only this, he never hated any part of him, both physically and mentally. He accepted all his flaws and drawbacks along with his plus points, and he would never change it for anyone. He even thought it might seem ironic that someone is not willing to change his flaws even after he identified them. He didn't want to do so, because from the past life's childhood till death of all those 25 years, more than half of his life was under someone's control. His food, his health, his exercise, his attire, and even his learning was under someone's control. Sam has found something new to learn, and every time he did that he would have to show many reasons that it is useful to his controller, if he learned this in one way or other before he got the approval. So, when the major part of his life was in someone's control, he found out that his character was the only thing that is within his control. Thus, he just wanted to keep it like that. He would never change it for social norms and conventions. Only if a person is worth it for him to change his character, he would do so. Many people might think he is arrogant, and he is behaving as if the world is revolving around him. But what Sam believed is, if you don't treat yourself special and don't have any confidence in you, then never ever expect someone to treat you that way. And if anyone does that, there are only two conditions. First one is the unconditional love, and the second one is that person might have designs on you in one way or other, and he might be boosting your ego to destroy you. Sam swam in the lake for his heart's content, and when he saw that no one is near the lake, he called out Mia. The little hydra was already a level 1 and has grown faster and faster. When she came out, it immediately jumped at Sam and started snuggling. Sam threw all the care for the world and started playing with Mia. They just played inside the water for hours. After coming out of the water, Sam wasn't satisfied and took out the formation flags. He placed layers up on layers of concealing formations, and even activated the formation discs. He let out all the beasts, panthers, Yanwu, Sky, Ape, and Mia. He doesn't know what is going to happen in the Dukem capital, so he just wanted to enjoy some peace with his companions. The two panthers pinned him to ground and started licking him in the face. It has been a long time since the little guys got his attention. Inside the dimension they only have themselves to play with and don't have much to do. Yanwu or Sky would give food to them, and they would run around, roll around, mess up some herbs that are planted, ruffle Yanwu's feathers and run away. They are just like any other kids. Sam called over Watt and asked him to bring over a large amount of food from the restaurant. In an hour, Watt also joined them with a lot of food. Sam didn't talk much, all he did was play with the little beasts, panthers and Mia. He even let the queen bugs out. While relaxing, Sam saw something interesting. Both the panthers are acting like superiors to Mia and are teaching her manners. He couldn't help but chuckle. Even though they became hybrid because of the fire poison, both the panthers don't have much potential as Mia for now. After all, she is a mythical beast. He imagined how Mia becoming a behemoth-sized beast and looking down on the now superior panthers and shook his head with a laugh. But the problem is that Mia doesn't like to stay on the land for a lot of time, and panthers being the fire type is making it hard for her. Then only, he thought that it would be a good idea to capture a few water-type beasts to have her company. After the long relaxation, Sam and Watt packed up everything and stored away the beasts. Now that both of them are alone, Sam took out the gift he prepared for Watt. When Watt saw this, he was dumbfounded. Because it is also a hoverboard. But this is a bit different. This is a little thinner, and it is completely silver in color. Sam made this because he has to walk if wants to go with Watt for some other places. So, if Watt also has same way of transport, they can move faster. But this board is different in a lot of ways. For Harbinger, Sam can directly circulate the wind elemental spiritual energy into the high pressure air to get the required thrust. Even though Watt's manipulation and control over wind element are high, it is not high enough to provide same thrust. So, Sam used a variety of inscriptions to make this. This thing also operates on the wind energy cells, but they are not visible for outside. Instead, they are covered with a plate. On the inner side of the plate, there are a lot of complex inscription matrices Sam made. These inscription matrices are actually made of a simple wind-type inscription called air cannon. This is a normal wind elemental spell which produces a thrust of air for an instant, and the scale of the effect will depend on the energy used by the mage. Sam made an inscription matrix of these so that when injected they would provide a continuous thrust. So, simply this thing runs on the continuous small-scale air cannons pushing the board upwards, and even the forward thrust will be given the same way. As for others finding out and copying it, they can try and see if they can continuously pour the energy from their body, since Sam is sole supplier of the energy cells. But before they could do this, they have to open up and examine, but Sam took measures. He stacked up the concealment formations inscribed with etching operation to conceal it from spiritual sense. For now there would be no copying. Sam then showed the remaining functions of the board. There are some projectile shooting options on the front and even back of the board, and there is one more function which he could use in the close combat too. The rest of the day was gone with Sam teaching on how to balance and use the board effectively. The next day early in the morning, Sam and the remaining members arrived at the Marquis mansion. The 20 members were selected and the list was out. Sam's team didn't have any eliminations except for Jasmine. So, that is 9 seats gone. For the remaining 11, the second team, which mostly comprised of noble children, got 7, while the third team only got 4 places. As for the eliminated candidates, they were given enrollment to the special elite class, as the top priority students who will be invested in. Sam looked at Zeke, who is also looking at him with some sort of fear in his eyes. Zeke is particularly a bit overwhelmed and anxious as his father called him and his brother yesterday. If you want to live peacefully, don't mess with Sam anymore. Even if your grandfather can oppress him for now, you will be regretted in long run. So, if you guys have any plans to deal with him with the help of your grandfather, abandon the idea. These are the exact words of Marquis yesterday night. Not only did Marquis warn them, he didn't even give any further explanation. You will be representing the Blue Flame territory and will be competing in the dukedom capital. Now you guys don't have any way back and have to move forward even if you like it or not. So, I hope you guys concentrate on the future and grab the opportunities that are being presented for you. After that, they were led to what seemed like a forest, and when they entered all of them saw gigantic beasts. These are fire-winged eagle. These are one of the beast squads of the Marquis territory, and they are fire and wind dual elemental beasts. There is one more advantage for them. They are big and fast. So, they are also used for long-distance travel. At this morning, 5 fire-winged eagles soared into the air with the candidates and the Marquis riding them toward the dukedom capital. After flying for 13 days, the 5 fire-winged eagles landed in the dukedom capital. The dukedom capital is 3 times larger than the Marquis city, and most of the nearby woods are completely cleared out of the beasts. One can stay without a worry of the beasts in these outskirts. There is only one worry, and that is other humans. This time, Sam didn't plan to bring his restaurant business here. He doesn't know what he would be facing in the tests, and he doesn't have anyone to take care of his businesses in his absence. At least in the Blue Flame City, Charya is there to take care of things. After landing, a person came and directed them to the quarters provided. As they walked, Sam watched the estate. This place is isolated from the city, and he could see various beasts which seemed to be the transportation of the other Marquis teams. There are 10 buildings in the estate and 9 of them belongs to the 9 Marquis cities, and the remaining might belong to the dukedom city. After they entered the quarters and settled down, Marquis Blue Flame gathered them and gave them the required briefing on the dukedom. This city is called Southern Star City, and the dukedom is called Southern Star Dukedom. There are 8 dukedoms in this empire, and all of them are named after the direction they are in followed by star. And apparently all of them share a border with the empire which they are sharing the western continent with. The Blue Flame Marquis' territory is the southernmost of all, and didn't share a border. That is why they are also last to come. Almost all the other participants are here. The dukedom city has 3 main experts, and all 3 of them are nascent stage cultivators. The duke himself is a peak stage nascent, and the remaining 2 are generals who are middle stage nascent experts. One of them is the General Spark who the Marquis spoke of. He is in charge of all the troops of the dukedom, that includes all the army camps placed in various Marquis territories. And most importantly, this guy is the father-in-law of the Blue Flame Marquis. Even though there are native in charges of their places, General Spark is the top of this pyramid, and all of them are under his jurisdiction. The second one is General Mercury. He is in charge of the internal safety. All the city guards come under his jurisdiction. As for the rest, the Southern Star Academy is not only the best in the dukedom, they also collaborate with the 4 major professions, and have the students learn within the academy. These 4 tower heads send the necessary instructors to the academy. Finally, there are a total of 6 noble families, and all of them are of same level as a Marquis family. But their scope of authority is less, and they don't have any territory under them except their estates. By the time the brief exchange was over, a visitor arrived. Blue Flame Marquis. A man who seemed to be in early 40s walked through the site as he called the Marquis, who is facing all the candidates. Marquis turned around and seemed a little stunned by that person's arrival. He came out of his shock and greeted that person. Greetings, General Spark. The candidates were surprised. Just now Marquis explained that this man is one of the 3 most powerful people in the dukedom. But 2 people are clearly delighted to see them, and they are the brothers Zeke and Bluefire. Grandfather. X2. Both of them greeted him in unison as they delightedly walked towards him. The man who seemed to be in his 40s actually nearly 70 years old. But he looked only 50 because of the nascent stage cultivation. In the cultivation stages until Grand Realm, the only changes in the body are health, physique, size of the spiritual core and the amount of spiritual energy. Other than that, there are not many changes in aging and lifespan of the person. In this world where the pollution is negligible and the environment is pure, the average lifespan of a healthy person is around 120 to 130 years, and if a person is a grand stage expert, his lifespan would be at most 150 years. But the nascent stage changes everything. One can even divide the whole cultivation into different phases as before nascent and after nascent. Of course, this applies only in these lower realms. In the nascent stage, the human body will be undergoing a physical reformation, along with the spiritual core. In this stage the cells of the person will undergo a sort of rebirth, and the vitality increased at the same time the spiritual core will start to resemble an infinite space. As name implied, the nascent stage is the start of realizing one's full potential. The changes in this stage will not only decide their final point of cultivation, but also their stand amongst their peers. There are basically 3 things that can decide these things. The first and most important one is the infinite space of the spiritual core. This infinite space is not real, but just something the cultivator has perceived in his core. In this infinite space, along with the development and advancement in the substages of the nascent realm cultivation, a spiritual sea will be formed from the center, and the extent of its development are the indications of the final point of their cultivation. The second thing is the body honing or the spiritual sea density. During this reformation, the cultivators try to take advantage of it, and try to hone their body if they are warriors, and increase the density of the spiritual energy in their spiritual sea, which are proportionate to the battle prowess. Okay, we are way off topic, back to the room. The general ignored everyone as he talked with his grandsons, and then looked at the group. He seemed to be searching for someone, and his gaze has lingered on Sam for a tad bit longer. After that, he looked at Marquis and asked, "Why is there an extra person?" "He is not a candidate, but he is a subordinate of someone." The general frowned immediately and looked to be in displeasure. "Whose subordinate is he?" Marquis pointed at Sam. General looked at Sam and said, "This is not your home and you cannot bring the subordinates here. This place is for the participants who doesn't have living arrangements made in the city. This is a gesture from Duke to make it convenient for you, not to let you freeload by bringing extra baggage." Sam raised an eyebrow and looked at the general with a cold look. When he looked at Zeke's mixed emotional face and Bluefire's gloating face and finally Marquis' anxious face, he knew that this guy must be targeting him on purpose. The message from the first wife surely arrived, and this general is really taking it out on him. After all, if this is a rule, Marquis must not have missed such an obvious one. "So, that means we can stay in the city if we have our own arrangements?" Sam asked without replying for the earlier statement. "Do so if you can. But you cannot bring your subordinate here. He said those words and ignored him before turning towards Marquis. The tests and other related matters will be announced tomorrow. You can roam around the city as you wish, but you have to gather in the estate by dawn. He then looked to Sam and said, send him out immediately or you can get out with him. Sam didn't say anything and took out his harbinger. Watt followed suit as he took out his board. There's a string of letters etched on the side. Silverwind. Since Sam is not good at naming, he asked Watt to do it himself. Sam didn't even look at the Marquis as he spoke. Contact me with communication token if anything comes up. Then with the air whistling, Sam and Watt left the place in speed of wind. Damn it, he might be buying another house. Philip said under his breath, but everyone clearly heard it, even the general. Humph, not any Tom, Dick and Harry, can afford a place here. He snorted and gestured Marquis to talk in private. But Marquis, Jack, Philip, even Kelly and Hawk are shaking their heads. It's true, not any Tom, Dick and Harry can buy a place, but is Sam any Tom, Dick and Harry? He is Sam. When has he ever failed in getting what he wants? But the general didn't think much of their thoughts. Even though he was stunned by the hovering boards, he only thought that Sam and Watt would be finding an inn. He took a communication token and said, mark 2 guys who are moving on some floating objects, follow them and let all the inns and restaurants know that he cannot be taken as a customer. If he was to dine or stay in any of these establishments, I will hold you responsible. He didn't even wait for other parties' answer, and turned the token off. But Marquis was stunned. General looked at him and said, do you have something to say regarding my second grandson? His voice was solemn. I have nothing to say. He is executed because he did something he shouldn't have. Why should I believe you? Marquis thought for a bit and said, do you know Blackwater? General was stunned when he heard these words. How do you know that name? His voice was frantic and a bit anxious. If the neighboring empire is an external enemy, then the Blackwater is an internal enemy of the empire. Even though he is not in charge of the internal safety, he knew who they are. Luther is working for them. Here, these are the scrolls I found in his ring. He took out a bunch of scrolls which contained the duties of Luther and the organization. Marquis didn't ask for Luther's ring for no reason. He asked if for these scrolls, he can just take them away, but he thought that there might be possibility that Sam might know about these scrolls based on his intelligence gathering scope. That is why he shot an arrow in the dark and it hit the target. When the general looked through them, he was stunned. He didn't know that a Blackwater branch was eradicated, and that happened in his son-in-law's city. If he knew that Sam was the one who did the work, one must wonder how he would think. General Spark clearly understood that Luther was indeed tied up with Blackwater, and didn't probe any further. But he still has a lot to talk about Sam. Why did you let a brat walk over my grandson? He asked seriously. Marquis didn't know what to say to his father-in-law. Because he didn't treat the latter like that. Their relationship is more like a transaction. As for General Spark's relationship with his daughters and grandsons, he spoiled them because of an immense the guilt he has to carry. His daughters paid a huge price which cannot be compensated due to him, so all he could do is make it up by spoiling them. A few days back, his first daughter contacted him through the Marquis and Duke communication system, which is also accessible to her due to his spoiling attitude, and complained about how her son was being toyed around by a rank 5 scholar artisan, who is only 16 years old. He is angry at his son-in-law about this, but he cannot do much about it. Even though he asked why he is letting him do that, he knew better than anyone what his answer is. After all, a scholar artisan that to rank 5 at age 16 is not an ordinary person, and it is not easy to control him. Marquis took a deep breath and said, General Spark, I don't know what your daughter told you, but there is one thing I have to say to you. I don't want to handle any more unnecessary enemies. You know better than anyone what would happen if we push someone to their limits. Your daughters are living examples. I just hope that you won't do the same foolish mistake again. General Spark immediately got angry at Marquis' words. Even if it was true, he didn't want to hear it, since it is one of the dirtiest pasts of his. He snorted and said, Are you saying that I have to take your advice and cannot mess with a brat? Remember, even if we have a transaction, it is not your time to advise me. As for that brat, I spent more time being a nascent stage cultivator than his age. I don't have to care about that. Marquis didn't say anything and just stayed silent. Of course, he understood that nascent stage is powerful, but that old man of Blackwater is also a nascent stage, even if he is early stage 1. From the point of view of a novice stage cultivator, it doesn't matter. Both the early stage nascent and the middle stage nascent, both of them are same for a novice, they both can kill him in a second. But what happened to that old man? Marquis has only one thought in his mind. You are a nascent, great. But it is not like Sam hasn't killed one before. Even though Marquis doesn't know if those chains would affect this middle stage, his instinct is telling him that General would end up in same way, if Sam put sufficient effort in making preparations. I am leaving now, I would be coming back tomorrow morning. Make sure that all your candidates are here by that time. General Spark left that place after that. While General and Marquis are discussing something, somewhere in the city, which is also called the Central Region, Sam and Watt are in the Artisan Tower. Sam came here because, with his rank 5 badge, this place is the best for gathering the info he required very easily. Artisan Sam, I heard a lot about you from Chaya. It is an honor to finally meet you. A middle-aged man who is also a rank 5 artisan received him personally after he spoke to the receptionist. After exchanging some pleasantries, Sam spoke. Artisan Ford, I have something to ask you. Since you are an architecture artisan, you should know about the real estate in the city, right? Of course. Since I am new to city, I don't have much knowledge on how it works in here. So, I have no choice but to trouble you. I want to buy a house in the city. The middle-aged man was silent for a second and said, Artisan Sam, since you came to me, you should know the situation of the city. The city is divided into 3 parts. The outer region, where commoners live, the inner region where somewhat rich people live and most of the business occurs, and finally the central region, where upper class of the society lives. And we the architecture artisans mostly work in the central region only and some special projects. You should understand that the influence I am at, the price is pretty high. We don't need to worry about the price at all, it is secondary. I want a house in the central zone, and it would be better if it is near General Sparks' house. When Ford heard this, he was dumbfounded for 2 reasons. First one is about price being secondary, and second one is the house being General Sparks' place. Is it a coincidence that this guy appeared just now? This is the only thought in his mind, and as if he was afraid that Sam would change his mind, he stood up and said, I actually have a perfect place for your choice. Please follow me. Sam was surprised at the response, but he stood up. Watt and Sam followed Ford into his carriage, and after traveling for a while, they arrived at a building which has a logo Sam was completely familiar with. Golden Horse Trading Company. Sam said. Oh, since you are already familiar with this name, I don't have to explain much. This company deals with all kinds of trade within the southern Star City, and they have almost all kinds of businesses. Even the 4 main profession towers also cooperate with them. The place I am about to show is also a collaboration project between them and us. They went in and were led by an attendant to a meeting room. Within 5 minutes, another middle-aged man came inside the room. He came in rather frantically and after greeting Ford, he asked Sam, Sir, are you sure those are your only requirements? Sam just nodded his head, and the other guy seemed to be ecstatic. We will go right now. Again, after another carriage journey. Even though the central zone is the innermost part of the city, it is the largest of all 3. It is twice the size of both inner and outer cities combined. But the population is not even 1/10 of both inner and outer cities. Because the whole place mostly has a lot of free land which are given to nobility and the other citizens as rewards for their contribution. There is still more than half of the land in the zone which is empty, and Duke will employ the Golden Horse Trading to create the mansions now and then to gift the people with enough merits. Sam and the rest arrived at a large estate. When Sam was, he was surprised. It is actually an estate. He didn't think that they would show him an estate instead a mansion. Sir, that is the estate of the General Spark. The middle-aged manager, whose name is Kane, said as he pointed at the estate opposite to them. Then he continued with his explanations. Actually, our current estate also belongs to General Spark. He decided to see it because he has some urgent need for a large amount of money. When Sam heard that the estate belongs to General Spark, he was happy. Since this old man purposefully made things difficult to him and did not let Watt stay with them, he might have even made some arrangements to make sure that they won't get any accommodations. If he can get normal accommodations in an inn, what is the point of him making all the fuss and letting him go out? But now, if he knew that Sam is buying his very estate, he is wondering how that old general would react. When they entered though, Sam was stunned. It is not your everyday estate. There is a lot of greenery in it, but it is not the type of greenery came with tree. Rather, a translucent green crystal-like stone was all over the estate. Rather than saying that it is all over it, it is more appropriate to say that it is made of that stone. Sam didn't say anything, he just waited for these middle-aged men to speak. After they walked deep inside the crystalline land, they saw a large mansion. The place around the mansion does have required scenery and the plants and tree along with a garden. But it is only for that space, the rest of the land is full of crystals. Both middle-aged men exchanged a glance and Ford explained. Artisan Sam, I would be blunt with you. The thing is General Spark got this land as a reward, but the main problem is, he didn't care about it when it was given, and some nobles and officials set up a trap to get rid of this land. But now that he needs some money, he suddenly remembered this land which doesn't have any value. You might not know, these green crystals are called impact crystals. These react under any physical force and starts absorbing the surrounding energy, but if the energy crosses the limit, the crystal explodes. So, it is hard to clear the land, and there are not many uses with these crystals to mine them carefully. But General started acting stubbornly, and we don't have a choice to oppose him. We made a lot of effort to make this one mansion here. Don't worry though, we won't let you suffer a loss. Generally, a mansion of this size will cost 30 million in Southern Star Central Zone, and this estate, even though waste is almost as big as the size of estate of the Duke families. It is the second biggest estate with more than 1,000 acres of land. If you want to buy an estate of this size, you would have to pay at least 1 billion. But the land is barren and complete waste, so the general didn't ask much. All he needs is the 30 million for the mansion and another 120 million for the whole land. At this point, Sam only had one thing to say. Deal. Sam's eyes are literally sparkling as he looked at the yards and yards of the green crystal in the estate. It is indeed called impact crystal, and even in the material catalog he read in the divine dimension, not many uses regarding this item are mentioned. At most, these can be used for some surprise attack. But Sam wouldn't agree to that point. As far as he was concerned, there is no material which is useless, just the right person didn't get to use it for the right purpose. And Sam happened to see many possibilities with these crystals. For him, 150 million is not a lot. He earned quite a huge sum from his businesses, as well as looting the Blackwater Town City branches, which was more than 120 million altogether. And the Marquis City branch even earned him over 300 million in spirit stones alone. What is the point of him earning all this money if he didn't get to spend it? And seeing that there is such a profitable mineral which could multiply his profits coming over, he didn't even need to worry about the spending. So, Sam immediately finished the deal and all the procedures are finished. So, they went to roam around the city. In the evening, they went directly to the newly bought estate and stayed inside the only mansion that is present. That evening, the general has 2 people reporting in his mansion. His estate has many houses and all of them belong to his special squad who he specially trained and can be called his disciples. The first report is that the estate which he has a lot of trouble selling was finally sold. He needed his money really badly. He planned to give his special squad, which consisted of 20 great stage and 30 novice stages, a new set of weapons. All these people are commoner with high talent which he handpicked. All of them are in the age group of 20 to 35. Due to their recent breakthroughs, he felt that it is his obligation to reward them and need a lot of money for that. Even though he is a nascent expert and the general does have enough salary or more likely called as resources allocated to him for his cultivation, he was still short on cash. After all, he planned to gift them with a lot of pills, weapons and new set of armors, specially designed for one's own requirements. Everything tailor-made for them. And there are not many ways for him to get a quick cash, and he couldn't wait for the next quota of his resources, and with his pride as general he certainly cannot. So, he planned to sell his long-forgotten estate, and now only he recognized the problem with the estate. But he cannot back down, and he immediately went to look for Golden Horse Company. He used his authority a little and acted stubborn for the sake of his students, and thus made them accept this job. There are no results for a long time. Thus, when he heard that someone bought the land, he was happy. But the second report instantly soured his mood. The subordinate reported that Sam and Watt didn't stay in any inn, but bought a house. Who sold the house to him? Didn't you make it clear to the seller? He asked rather furiously. But the subordinate was also at a loss. Sir, the person who sold the house is a nascent stage cultivator, and also a rank 5 architecture artisan from the tower, and the house he sold is your estate. General immediately shut his mouth, and his forehead was filled with black lines. He is the one who is supposed to be making things difficult to Sam, not offering him a house to buy. He didn't even know how to react to the situation. Dismissing the subordinates, he was completely immersed in his thoughts, and after a long and hard thought, he finally muttered, "Anyway, I milked 150 million away from him, that land is worthless, and the living environment is not any good. It is an absolute waste." Only now did he feel better, but this very thought will slap his face so hard in the future, that he would rather not get a memory loss than remember such situation. The next day, Sam left Watt in the estate and gave him a large amount to spirit stones to enjoy himself. When he went to their assigned building, all of them are looking at him weirdly. Philip and Jack came to him and greeted him. When he asked them about what is happening, the answer really gave him some new understanding of the general's pettiness. Yesterday night, Blue Fire went to all of them, and clearly warned that the competition would be something related to forming teams, and that is also voluntary. So, they are given a warning that no one should join Sam's team or they would suffer. Sam shook his head with a chuckle. Blue Fire and Zeke are looking at him, but were surprised by the unexpected smile. After some time, they were summoned to the grounds of the estate, and a total of 200 candidates assembled. Sam saw Nicholas and both of them waved at each other. General Spark is standing on a big stage with some middle-aged men standing behind him. His back is straight and his burly physique will that aura of a commanding presence, as if he was forcing everyone to follow absolute obedience. He is a general indeed. Sam felt impressed and he could feel some respect for him. "Welcome everyone. You all are the candidates who are selected to the next phase of tests to get a life-changing opportunity. In this stage of the competitions, the duration is for 18 months. The first 16 months will be divided into 2 stages. And those 2 stages are military and business. The last 2 months will be announced after the first 2 stages are over and required eliminations are over. Now before I explain anything more, into teams, I don't care how many members are in a team, but it should be even numbered. You have 10 minutes. You can be a team member with people from your own territory or even from the other territories. All this time, General Spark looked at Sam. He wants to see if he would have any teammates, and guess what, he was surprised. Because there are not 1, but 5 teammates who came to him. And the first one is Philip, and he has a mischievous smile on his face, followed by Jack, Hawk, Cully and Drew. Ray silently separated from them. Sam didn't think that 5 of them would come. He only thought Jack and Philip would surely come as for Kelly. He didn't know if she would. Jack and him have been through a lot, so he would come as for Philip. Honestly, Sam felt that Philip is more of a friend to him than Jack. It is just that they are not close enough. Both of them are not at a stage to share everything with each other. Maybe the day Philip finally decides on what to learn in the artisanship, they could talk. As for Kelly, maybe there is still some stupid infatuation left, and for Hawk and Drew, he can think of many possibilities, except that they are here because Sam helped them a lot in the previous stages. Sam didn't think much, and he wouldn't be surprised if everyone didn't come to him except Philip and Jack. After 10 minutes, the teams were formed. All the teams formed are the teams of 10, every territory has 20 candidates, which made 2 teams from each territory. The only odd team is Sam's because there are only 6, and the remaining 4 were added to the Southern Star City's team. And the 4 people that were added to Southern Star City team are Zeke and Blue Fire, and 2 of their noble lackeys from Blue Flame City. General seemed to have pulled strings in a lot of places just to get back for his grandson. Sam lost all the respect he had for him in an instant. General Spark checked that everyone was done, then he spoke. Now that everyone is set, every team will be divided into 2. Half of you will go to military in the first stage and stay there for 8 months. The second one will start a business, and you have to earn money in a legal way. After 8 months, you will change the positions. The first half will take over the business or conduct new businesses and earn money, while the second half will be entering the military. The team points will be given cumulatively, and the team members themselves will be distributing themselves among them. As for how you get the points, you won't be knowing until the final evaluation. But do remember, in the military the instructors and the superiors have right to deduct your points for your misconduct, and in the business phase, there would be a tight surveillance on you, and any underhanded means used will be charged by deduction of your points. You divide into 2 teams, and I would decide on who would participate in military, and who would participate in the business first. Sam just left the matter of division to the remaining members, but before that he had a few words to say. I won't ask why you would pick me in this kind of situation, but I thank you for that. But one point I want to make is that you might have made a biggest mistake in your life, because you would be having a hard time because of your decision, and that may even affect your advancement. If that really happens, I would do you a favor and show of my gratitude after this whole fiasco is over. But until then, I am sorry to say that you have to face the consequences of the decision you made and live with it. The group didn't reply to his words, and they decided to make the teams in a few minutes. Sam, Hawk and Drew are in one team while Jack, Philip and Kelly are in another team. There are no particular reasons except that among the group only Philip and Sam knew how to conduct a business, and Kelly is the other artisan who can make some products for their shop. Jack is mostly a person who can follow orders and is familiar with Philip, which makes it easier for them. As for Sam's team, Hawk might be amiable, but taking orders from Philip might be a bit too much for him, as he lived all his life in superiority, and Drew might feel the same. Even though it might make them look like being unreasonable, it is a fact that they might listen to orders of Sam, because he can overwhelm them completely, but Philip, although capable, cannot do that for reasons unknown. Anyway, Philip and Jack thought that this arrangement was better for them, and it is being done like that. They stood in 2 teams of 3 members. After every other team sorted their things out, General gestured someone, and that person came and started distributing some small tokens. The tokens have numbers written on them. And for Sam's 2 groups, the numbers 21 and 22. They are considered as the 10th team, and in that 20th team, Sam's group of 3 has tokens with 21, and Philip's group of 3 has 22. After the distribution is completed, General spoke once again. All teams' first halves will serve in the military for the first 8 months, and second halves will do the business. Let me explain how this goes. There will be 2 wars with our neighboring empire in the whole test time. And first war will occur at the 8th month, while the second one will be on the 16th month. These 2 wars are only for your testing, and the neighboring empire is also undergoing the same test as you, so you would be going head-on against them. The same test is going all over the empire in every dukedom at the same time, so you better be prepared and put your heart into it, if you want to stand out. For military batch rules, you will be sent to the military training camp, which is being held in the military base at the dukedom capital. You will be trained there and will be sent to the war in the 8th month, so your training will be there for 7 months, and for every 15 days of these 7 months, you will be allowed to leave the camp. But you are only allowed to move within the city and nearby woods that are under the Southern Star City control. The remaining rules on how your training goes will be explained in the base. For the business part, you are allowed to move as much as you like, and you can conduct business in all of the Dukeum's territory. Even though it is called business, at the end of the day all you have to do is earn money, but you have to provide the means you obtained and make sure that you didn't do it in an illegal way. Any businesses and assets you have previously don't count. However, you can use them as investments. For example, if you have a land asset and you sell it, that won't count as your earnings, but you can use that money as an investment. At the end of valuation, your returns and the investments will be compared, and one with the points will be awarded based on the percentage of your profits. Now, the batch that is going to military, you have 5 minutes to talk to your team and get ready. After the speech, Sam didn't say much, he only talked to Philip for a few seconds, and that is, Watt will be outside of the estate, you guys follow him, I bought a property, you guys stay there with him. As for business thing, try to start something, I think Watt has enough money. Just test the waters for the time being in the capital for the first 15 days, but from what I can see things won't be easy at all. Try your best and take care, I will see you guys after 15 days. After the 5 minutes passed, all the candidates in the military batch are taken away. Sam looked around and didn't find Nicholas, he seemed to be in the business batch. Sam didn't think much of it, so 50 students were taken in the carriages to the military base of the Southern Star City. Even though it is called the military base of the city, it is not present in the city and is in the nearby woods. When all 50 students were boarded down and entered the camp, they saw many squads and battalions training. Sam noticed one thing, there is not much order in the camp or even in the squads. Each squad has different types of cultivators, mages, warriors, warrior mages, etc. Even though they seem pretty united, most of them are mainly focused on their individual strength training, and very few are practicing team attacks. On the way he saw a deserted zone with no people at all. That place had a small building made of stone, and there is a small stage. He didn't know its purpose, but it has some weird atmosphere attached to it. Soon, they were led to some barracks. There a middle-aged man is standing with his back straight as he looked at the candidates. Behind him, there are 5 men who are also standing straight. When they arrived at the place, the middle-aged man in the lead called out, "Stand in 20 files with each file having 5 people." When all the candidates stood in order, the middle-aged man continued, "From today until the 8-month time is over, I am your chief instructor. The 5 men standing behind me are also the instructors who have absolute authority over your tasks, training and even punishment. Generally, according to our empire's military structure, a squad will be consisting of 7 members, and a company consists of 7 such squads, led by a company commander. It has to be flexible and capable enough to lead the whole company, as well as merge with any squad in a battle. The military structure is purely fictional, and something that yours truly made up. So, don't complain about me not having much military knowledge. So, you all will form 2 companies, and there would be 2 company commanders selected through procedures. To further explanation, a battalion has at least 10 companies in it, and 6 battalions combined to become a regiment. In this base there are a total of 5 such regiments, and another 5 regiments are stationed at various borders of the dukedom. For every 6 months their duties will be exchanged. These things don't apply to you guys, as your main task is to train for the war after 8 months. But it is essential to know these details. As for this military structure, there are some exceptions which they are not valid for, and one of them are the special squad our General Spark is training, which is called the Thunderwolf Squad, which has a total 50 members. And as for the rules, you have a fixed resting time, eating time, training time, which will be noted in the schedule you will be given for you by the instructors. There is one common rule in the military that is valid to all the regiments, and that includes the Thunderwolf Squad as well as you guys. That is, anyone can challenge you for a duel, and you cannot decline if the other person's cultivation is not more than 2 levels higher than you. Levels here means novice level 3 cannot reject a person at novice level 5. In the duel anything other than killing and crippling the cultivation is allowed. Some of you might think it is unfair to get beat up by the higher level, but this is the army, and, in the war, there is no telling whether you will face the enemy at same level. So, suck it up and deal with it. If you have any questions, ask me now. One of the candidates who is the part of the 1-1 raised his hand and asked, "Sir, may I know your name? Why do you want to know my name?" The middle-aged man asked. The candidate was taken aback for a second and said meekly, "Curiosity." He was uncertain himself, he just asked the name casually. "You don't want to tell my name just because you are curious. My name isn't that cheap. If you just want to know about me, I will give you guys some details. I am the Deputy General of the Southern Star Military. You can call me Deputy General or Instructor. I am an early-stage nascent realm warrior. But if you really want to know my name so much, there are 2 choices. First one, you can gain enough merits so that you would be worthy of knowing my name, or you the second one, climb the ranks to get access to the records of the military department, so that you can read my name yourself. Until then you can forget about knowing it. In the whole dukedom, there are less than 10 people who know my name. He spoke and walked away. After that the deputy general left and 4 out of 5 remaining instructors also gone. They also don't seem to have any intention to introduce themselves to them right now. The remaining instructor took the place of deputy general and spoke. My name is Yan. I am a regiment commander and so are the remaining 4 instructors. We train our own regiments individually and each has our own ways. Your training will be conducted along with all 5 regiments, and you will be tested in all types of qualities required by our Southern Star military. For every 3 days, different instructor will take charge of the class. So, for the next 3 days I will be your instructor. As for the rules, everyone should assemble in the same place by dawn, and you should be here no matter if you had enough rest or not. It doesn't matter to me if you have slept the night, cultivated or just roamed around. I would be expecting you to be here, and if anyone fails to comply, you would be facing the punishment. You will be receiving the same benefits of an ordinary soldier based on your cultivation levels. Every novice would get 100 elemental stone every week, and there would be 3 meals a day, which will provide just enough spiritual energy for you to finish your training. Everyone will be dismissed after the supper is over. But, in some cases surprise drills will be conducted which expects you to assemble no matter what time it is. As for duels, anyone who has a rank equal to battalion commander or above has to supervise a duel, and if a person wants to reject it, he has to give a reason valid enough to convince the battalion commander. If you have any conditions or wagers for duels, the supervisor can act as a middleman. Okay, that's it for today and you can relax for today. Your uniforms will be delivered to your assigned barracks tonight, and tomorrow morning you have to report to the place in your uniform. By the way, there is one more important thing I forgot to tell you. No communication tokens are allowed to use. If you try to use it, the formation will find out, and you would be held responsible for your actions. Disperse. After that the instructor left and all of them went to their respective tents. Each team has a tent of their own. Sam's group of 3 also has a tent of their own. Actually, the tents are made for 5 people, but since they are only 3, they have big enough space for them. Judging from this, Sam almost confirmed that General Spark just bent so many rules to isolate him and his friends. But at the same exact moment, another tent is not as comfortable. The Southern Star City's team who joined with the remaining 4 members now consists of the 7 people in the team, and out of 7 people, 2 are Zeke and Bluefire. The people inside the tent who originally belonged to the Southern Star team are quite frustrated. Out of 20 people of the Southern Star City, 10 people are from commoners, and 10 are from nobility. But Nicholas picked his team of 10 separately based on their abilities, and left the remaining 10, in which the Bluefire, Zeke and others were added. The original members are already quite upset that Nicholas didn't select them, and now they are even more upset because they had to follow General's orders and accept his grandsons. They are cursing the old General in their hearts. If he was so capable, why didn't he push his 2 grandsons into the Nicholas's team? Because Nicholas is Duke's last son, and he don't give a flying fuck about what the General wants. This old General is such a hypocrite. This is the only thought in everyone's mind. Sam is also curious about this issue. Why is the General so adamant about helping his grandsons so much that he was willing to ruin his own reputation? That is the question that he has in his mind since their first encounter. As for the present situation, the original team members could only grit their teeth and allow these 2 grandsons to have a comfortable place, and they have to adjust in the remaining space. At this moment, the business side of the teams are all moving along the city. Most of the teams are already moving all over the city and trying to buy over a best place. Some teams who doesn't have any business experience only have one thought: explore the forests. They decided on going hunts, gathering herbs, etc. But none of them were thinking about moving to their marquee territory, because it took a lot of time to travel from one place to another, and the fares are not low either. All of these transportation costs will be added to their investments, which would lessen their profit margin. The economy of the Southern Star City is bigger than all the 9 marquee territories combined. The people who are on business side of the first stage has a lot of pressure on them, because if they don't make a proper business now, they won't have proper results in the later half of the competition, when their team exchange the places. Now, all the teams are looking for place to conduct business, and most of them are targeting the already established business places. Some of them are trying to buy out the whole business, some of them are trying to lease the place for the next 16 months. All kinds of deals are being discussed. But one team is having an extremely hard time. Philip, Jack and Cully ran around the whole city along with Watt, but they were unable to cut a single deal. Even the newly established buildings in the inner city and the shops in the worst spot are not willing to sell them. In fact, nobody is even willing to talk business with them. Some of them just blocked them at the entrance, and some of them sent them out after learning their team number. They are having a complete hard time. They understood that the situation is not good for them, but they still kept on trying. Actually, all of this is within Sam's expectations. He knew that they wouldn't be able to do anything easily, so he didn't give them any ideas to test the waters. He only gave them some recipes and asked them to start a restaurant or look for a restaurant for a possible cooperation, but they didn't even have a chance to negotiate. By evening, they are left with complete frustration. On their way back to Sam's estate, they encountered Nicholas. When the latter saw Watt, he greeted him with a smile. "Hey Watt, how are you doing? Are you helping your boss with the mission?" "Well, I wanted to, but there seemed to be no chance," Watt replied. Actually, Watt doesn't talk much, but when he saw Nicholas, he has an idea on how to turn around the situation a bit. If Nicholas can give them a recommendation, they would at least find a place to start. After explaining the situation, Nicholas also has some complicated expressions. The situation is a bit messy. It is not that I don't want to help you, but if I use my identity as Duke's son, I would be abusing my authority, and I would have to put those people in a spot as they would have a hard time between me in general. The second reason is that it wouldn't be fair for my teammates if I help you in a competition. He paused for a bit and after some deep thinking he said, "How about this? I have a small land in the outskirts of the inner zone which I bought from a friend. The area is a bit remote, and I bought that land to help a friend. I don't have any plans on using it, and it is not an ideal location for doing business either. So, if you guys don't have any other options, you can find me again, and I would sell that land to you guys. Even though it is a bit bad, I guess it is better than nothing. Please forgive me for not helping you. Even though I want to help you, my teammates might not feel it is fair for them, and this is a competition. I don't think helping you would be an honorable deed. Thanks for offering. We would meet you if we don't have any choice. As for apology, don't mention it. You are not the reason for our situation, so you don't have any obligation to help us either." Watt answered, and both of them went their separate ways after they exchanged their contact with the communication tokens. After that brief encounter, Watt led all of them to the new estate. When Philip looked at the land full of impact crystal, he couldn't help but ask, why did Sam buy a place full of impact crystals? They are not easy to get rid of, and they are not that useful. I don't know, but boss said that they are actually quite useful, and they can be a treasure if used properly. Philip didn't answer as they slowly moved towards the mansion. They called it a day and went to rest immediately after reaching the place. The next day, there was a loud bell ringing all over the camp before dawn. This is the call for assembly. All the candidates came out of their tents as fast as they can and assembled just like the day before. Instructor Jan is standing at the same place as yesterday. After the people assembled, he spoke with a smile. Everyone, today's training will be along with a company from my regiment. You will follow their way for the whole day. But before that, divide yourself into squads. Each squad should have 7 members, and there would be a total of 14 squads, along with 2 company commanders. These positions will be only valid for these 3 days. After 3 days, the new instructor will come and you will divide yourselves into new squads and new companies. But this situation is only for first 15 days. After the first 15 days, the instructors will finalize your squads and commanders. Till then, try to prove yourselves and get the approval of the instructors to get the position you deserve. As soon as he said these words, many people became excited. Many of them raised their hands to speak, and all of them are too eager as they wanted to get the chance to talk first and become a company commander as soon as possible. Discuss yourselves and decide. I will give you 5 minutes. If there are only 2 people left after that, I would just let them be, but if there are still more people, I will select the 2 from them. At this moment, a young man started walking over to them. He is wearing an electric blue uniform, and there is a thunder symbol on his chest. Everyone just looked at him in awe, particularly the people from the southern Star City, because they knew what that electric blue uniform signifies. But among the whole group, only more than 10 people are looking at the legs of the young man, more precisely at his feet. Because the young man's footsteps didn't have any sound or any footprints. His feet seemed to be light and as if he is floating without any traces which showed the control of his legs. This guy must be good at movement techniques or good at his kicking techniques, most probably both of them. The young man looked rather proud, and his eyes are full of confidence. He walked over to the team members and looked around as if he was scanning them without even greeting the instructor. His gaze landed on Blue Fire and Zeke. He waved at them, and the duo waved back. Then only he looked at the instructor and greeted him. Hello Regiment Commander Jan. Hello Jim. What are you doing here? Is there no training in the Thunderwolf squad? Instructor didn't seem to mind his attitude at all. When the candidates heard the words Thunderwolf squad, they couldn't help but feel the unwavering admiration. Well, not all of them, at least 90 of them. The young man whose name is Jim is only a peak stage novice, and he seemed to be in his early 20s. When compared to the other candidates, their talent is around same level, but the Thunderwolf squad's halo is making him look like he is above his peers, and not all of them could see through that halo. Jim looked at Jan and said, Well, I heard that teachers, General Spark, grandsons came to the city and are the part of this batch, so I came to greet them. If you don't mind, I want to talk to them for a bit. Even though his words were like seeking permission, his tone of voice is saying otherwise. Instructor Jan just nodded with a smile, albeit a bit forced. Zeke and Bluefire walked out, and the three of them walked a few yards away as they talked. Jim looked at the batch from time to time, and Sam could feel his condescending gaze landing on him. After a few minutes, Zeke and Bluefire merged back into the group, while Jim talked to Jan privately. Before leaving, he shot a gaze full of mischievous glint towards Sam. Sam knew at once that trouble has come knocking. And his guess was right. Jan looked at Sam with some hesitation before announcing to the group. For the first 3 days, I will select the company commanders. Zeke and Sam stepped forward. Everyone immediately fell silent. They didn't understand why the instructor suddenly changed his decision. But they didn't dare to talk back even though they are a little unsatisfied. Sam also didn't say anything and just stepped forward. The instructor said, "You both will be the company commanders for the next 3 days. You are responsible for monitoring the training and controlling your whole company. You can decide on how the squads will be divided, and who would be the squad captains. You are the only one responsible for your teams." After the announcement was over, Sam let them divide themselves as the squads on their own. He is not particularly interested, but he did do his job by solving some conflicts on squad leaders and their training requirements. There are many types of training facilities: target practices, close combat practice, arena, dodging practice. There are plenty. Sam looked through the info regarding their powers, and started making the schedule for their training. After all, not all of them can practice at the same time. After divulging everything, he was about to go to his training, but suddenly he heard a shout. "Sam!" Jan shouted on top of his lungs, to let the whole batch stop their activities in the middle and looked at him. Sam walked towards him with his back straight as he looked at Jan. He didn't expect that they would trouble him so desperately. But he still kept his patience. He decided that he would not do anything for the first 15 days. He would see how far they want to go. But these guys are even more desperate than he thought. Jan said in a strict voice, "Sam, your subordinate is idling and sat under the tree there. What are you doing without checking on him?" He said as he pointed at the tree. There, Sam saw a person standing with his spear in his hand as he closed his eyes while facing the tree. He is a wood element warrior mage. Everyone with some expertise could see that he is trying to practice something special, just from the activity of the spiritual energy around him. But the instructor, who is a Grand Realm cultivator, is saying that he is idling around. Sam didn't answer as he just looked at the instructor with a cold gaze. "Due to your incompetence, -5 points." Sam didn't say anything and just left the place, but for the whole day he was being called out and being rebuked under the gazes of all the candidates. Sam -3 points. Sam -6 points. Sam -8 points. Sam kept on hearing these words for the rest of the day. At first, the candidates thought that Sam did really make a mistake, but later they understood something was off. When they thought of how instructor changed his mind after Jim came and how he appointed Sam as company commander, and then kept on targeting him, they connected the dots and came to a conclusion. Sam is being targeted. But they are curious on who did he piss off so much to be targeted like this. After the whole day's routine was over, Sam was about to go to his tent along with Hawk and Drew, but that doesn't seem to be so easy. But this time, Sam is not the target, but Hawk and Drew. A soldier came out of nowhere and challenged Hawk, leaving the latter in a battered state after the spar. Sam looked for medical help, but that didn't go as planned. "What is wrong?" Sam asked the in charge of the infirmary. "Healers are busy." This is the only response. Sam has gone in return. He couldn't do anything but carry Hawk inside the tent and heal him, because he has to be ready for the next day's routine. But before he could do anything, Drew was challenged. "I heard you were a swordsman. Let me take a look at those skills." "As you wish." Both of them started sparring. As expected, the soldier who came is of higher level than Drew. But the worst part is that he was not even being given a chance to admit defeat. And for the whole night, Sam kept on assembling their bones and fixing their bodies. Even the candidates were a little troubled. They didn't like how the instructor is troubling Sam that much. He lost more than 35 points in 3 days. The same thing happened for the 3 days, and after the instructor changed and the new instructor was about to take charge, and just when everyone thought that things go to normal, the candidates were surprised. Because another person with Thunderwolf Squad's uniform came. Sam didn't know what to do. He could only shake his head as he looked at the instructor. All the candidates have a weird sense of déjà vu. They could see that Sam is not going to have any good time soon. The same things repeated time and time again. But the instructors didn't go overboard as Instructor Jan. They acted a bit mildly in the aspect of reducing points, but for the rebukes and scolding along with the shaming and insulting are on full swing. But they still lost around 80 points. For the first 14 days, Sam, Hawk, Drew went through a lot. The latter two took a beating, and it is almost every day. On 14th day night, Sam is healing Hawk and Drew. Blue Fire came into the tent and said to both of them, "You guys would save a lot of trouble if you distance with him. Even though it is late for you to get out of the team, I would arrange you to be soldiers, or I can even give you a chance to get into the Marquis Academy. You better think carefully." Sam looked at the two of them. For the past 2 weeks, they didn't say a single thing. They just took the beatings, and even though they won some battles, it didn't make much difference. "You know what, his suggestion is not that bad," Sam said casually. Hawk just chuckled and said, "Well, we are here mostly because of your help. Even if I believe I can make the cut, I am not too sure of it. You helped us before, how could we just leave you because you are in a bit trouble? Yeah, and this whole thing came from Zeke. Even if you haven't found a problem with him, I would have done so. Then I would have been in same situation," Drew said from the side. Sam just shook his head and said, "Anyway, rest well. We have a break tomorrow. We would see what is happening outside. I will think of way to get rid of these troubles after seeing the outside situation." For the first 15 days, just like how Sam's trio faced the trouble inside the camp, his teammates are also having quite hard time inside the city. They look for the shops for 3 more days, but no amount of money is making them cut a successful deal. So, all they can do is go back to Nicholas. "I am really sorry that you are going through this. I will talk to my father to look into it," Nicholas said to Watt. Even he felt like the general spark is going overboard. He is bending so many rules just to get back at a young man. "Thanks." Watt didn't say much and they finished the deal. After they looked at the small piece of land, Watt is thinking on how to deal with it. "Let's go to the Artisan Tower," Philip said, and 4 of them went to the tower. Even though it is difficult for them to find the high-ranked artisan, Watt was still remembered by the receptionist as Sam's subordinate of the young artisan. So, she immediately satisfied his requests. There are 2 things they had to do. "Watt, you communicate with Blue Flame City's Artisan Tower and ask Chaya to send Mackie here. From the situation here, it would be hard for us to hire any employees. Ask him to bring his whole team here. Kelly, you communicate with a rank 4 architecture artisan. I will go to Golden Horse Trading to see if we can arrange a faster transportation for Mackie and his followers." Philip gave them some directions and went outside. Right now, their main problem is not money at all. Sam gave them around 30 million spear stones, and they can afford to spend. When Philip went outside, Cully went to meet the tower head of the Artisan Tower along with Watt, because he is the only one who has permission to let others access the tower communication for another city. They saw the rank 5 badge on the middle-aged man's chest who is checking some material. He is a weapon artisan. Yes, the tower head of this city is also rank 5. But what is the difference between him and Chaya? It is the number of stars. If you remember, in the beginning when Sam took the weapon artisan exam, his badge has 9 stars below his rank. These stars indicate the skill level. As an inferior city, Chaya's is a rank 5 1 star where this man is rank 5 7 stars. In the lower levels the stars won't make much difference, but as the rank grew the stars make a lot of difference. "I heard that you are friends of rank 5 scholar artisan Sam. May I know why you are here?" he asked as soon as they entered the room. "We would like to communicate with Blue Flame Artisan Tower." "Why?" "Well, this is the situation." Kelly went on to explain the whole situation. When it was all done, the middle-aged man said, "I heard about Artisan Sam from Chaya, and from what I know, he has some keen interest in materials that are not popular. You know, we have a lot of space jade in our tower. Do you guys know if he is interested?" The middle-aged man said. From his words one could clearly tell he is trying to take advantage of the situation. After all, the space jade is one of the least popular materials, but they still have to collect according to regulations of the Artisan Tower. So, he can only find a way to get rid of them. "Sure," Watt immediately replied. The middle-aged man laughed lightly and led them to the communication room. When they are done there, both of them went back to hire an architecture artisan. They took the man to their land and explained how they would like the construction. Philip met them up there, informing that they could get a level 4 beast for transporting Mackie and his employees, but the cost is a bit high. The Firewing Eagles, except for Marquis, the rest are peak of level 3. So, they can expect the journey to be done within a few days. The construction of the place went pretty smoothly. Nobody dared to make any moves on them as the work was under the Artisan Tower. So, even General has to think before he does something. In a week, the construction was done and even Mackie and his team came. When the construction was done, they went to the tower to settle down the bills. They bought all the space jade, which was worth more than 2 million spirit stones. And for space jade, it is quite large quantity. But they have to decide on one more thing. How to make it popular. They have to make this place known, and after thinking long and hard, Philip has only one idea, and that is to attract them with the word free. So, the 4 of them started gathering beast meat in morning, and most of it was by hunting, and at night, they started making flyers by hand. For the next 4 days, they kept on distributing the flyers. Watt floated over the city as he gave one to every person he saw. There's only thing on the flyer. Free food made of magical beast meat for 3 days. Along with location of their restaurant. The word spread like wildfire in the city, and they attracted a lot of people. Many people visited at first for curiosity and for confirmation if the info is right, and they were not disappointed. So, on the 11th day, the grand opening of the restaurant was done in a majestic way. Hundreds of people came to taste the food. When they tasted it, they were delighted. Until the day 13th, Mackie and his staff were very busy, and so were Watt, Jack, Kelly and Philip. The first 3 were hunting and buying meat from the hands of hunters directly in the woods. Because they were unable to buy any in the city. Philip is busy managing the flow of customers. He even saw some candidates who came to test the waters, and they were really worried after tasting the dishes. They're delicious. The day 14th was their official opening for the business, and many customers still came. They could feel the effects of the dishes immediately, and many of them really liked the food, and they even have a chance to exchange the food for the raw meat. So, they were really excited to eat again. Phew, this is the big day. I hope everything goes alright, Philip said as he sighed. His palms are sweating. He is clearly nervous and serious. No one has seen him this serious before. I hope so too. Everyone has gone through a lot in these days. The constant rejection has almost made them lose their mind. They are cursing the general so much that if the words could kill, the general would definitely die 100 times. When the business started, they were clearly happy. Because the flow of customers is quite high. By afternoon, they recovered all the expenses on buying the ingredients for the past 3 days of free food, and by evening they were clearly satisfied. Judging from the customers' reaction, the business will be going quite well in the future, and at this rate all their losses will be covered within a month. So, the next day, which is also the first 15th day, they opened the place quite hopefully. But as soon as they started the business and the customer flow was at its peak, a problem came knocking. A bunch of men came with menacing expressions. Who is in charge here? The leader, who seemed to have a scar on his face, asked. Philip walked to them with a frown with Watt on his side and asked, "What do you want? Who gave you the permission to open a restaurant here?" The man on the lead asked. "The Duke," Philip said, and took out a piece of paper with Duke's seal. "This is the permission exclusive for the candidates." The man didn't even bother to take a look and just said, "Whatever, you have to pay the protection fee if you want to do any business here." Philip frowned. But he asked, "How much?" 100,000 per month. Philip and Watt immediately became solemn. Because of the huge amount. It is not that they cannot afford it, but Philip has bad feeling that this might be another ploy from General. If the men really did work for General, they might use this money as leverage and make up a story for bribery. Watt didn't stay here and immediately moved outside on Silverwind. He went to look for city guards. Even though they can fight off these guys, according to the rules, fighting in the city is prohibited, and they need a valid reason if the fight broke out. But if this is all a ploy, which has highest probability of being one, they didn't feel safe about taking action. But Watt didn't find any city guards in the vicinity. The situation smelled more and more fishy. When he went back to the restaurant, the situation already turned to worse. The men who came and started destroying the tables because Philip was thinking about how to deal with the situation. Before he could retaliate, they already attacked randomly and started running away. This made them believe even more that this is a ploy. Their business got disrupted, and after another hour, when they started settling things, another wave of people came. This time, they are prepared. Watt and Jack blocked their retreat while Philip attacked from the front. Just as they were about to land an attack. "Stop right there." A middle-aged man immediately came. He is one of the supervisors of the business side of the competition. He didn't even bother to ask what is going on and said to Philip, "You guys are trying to fight here, minus 10 points. But Sir Philip tried to talk but was immediately cut off. "I saw everything and I don't want to listen to your explanation." The supervisor immediately left. Philip, Jack and Kelly immediately felt dejected. They can now understand that they cannot do a proper business here. Only Watt is a bit normal, because boss said that he would sort things out. While Philip and the rest are dealing with the damage of the restaurant, Sam and the remaining candidates in the military are having a morning assembly before their departure outside. "You guys can stay outside for the remaining day, and you have to report back before dawn tomorrow. I will be your trainer for the next 3 days in the next 15 days session. One more rule you have to follow is that you have no permission to intervene in the business side of things. You can give suggestions to your teammates, but you shouldn't perform any trade which will be calculated in the competition, or you shouldn't help them in forms of negotiations. The most you can do is financial help and personal suggestions and some advice." Dismissed. All the candidates exited the camp. Sam took out the communication token to contact Watt. When he got the location of the restaurant, the trio went there as fast as they can. By the time they got there are no customers. Everyone left, only his teammates and Watt are sitting there with a gloomy atmosphere. Sam was not that surprised by the situation. He casually picked a seat and asked, "Tell me the details on what happened since the day one." Watt slowly narrated everything on how they were unable to buy or rent any shop, on how they finally bought the land in this remote location, and how they built the shop, and bringing back Mackie and his staff. Sam listened to the whole situation and just showed his assent that he understood. "Let us go back to the estate," Sam said and stood up. They walked back to the estate slowly. On the way back he observed the situation of the market and how the things are going on here. One thing he observed is that in this city, the average person can be considered as well-to-do than poor. They can afford a considerable luxury. He is thinking on how to use this to his advantage. Many people might be thinking that his team might be at a disadvantage for now, but he can make sure that it is only a temporary thing. He has enough confidence that he can turn his tables around. All the way back, Sam could feel a gaze on him. He knew that the general put a man to keep a watch on him. One mistake and he would be done. The general is behaving completely beneath his title. He is using all kinds of despicable means by bending all kinds of rules. Sam just wanted to test waters and didn't take any measures in the first 15 days. Since they're trying so desperately, he would make sure that he would win. Since the military general himself is making it hard for him, he would earn all the money from the military itself. This time, Sam also dashed out one of his self-made rules, and that is not making the firearms and explosives. Since he came to this world, he met so many people that he wanted to make the firearms many times. Even though a normal gun won't be of much use, he can use the materials exclusive to this world and make it possible to make a weapon which could make some serious damage. There are two main reasons he didn't want to create these. First one is that a gun is one of the inventions on Earth which brought many changes to the world, and he didn't want to bring that thing into this world. That thing can give someone the unfounded courage and guts which they actually don't have. If it was landed in wrong hands, things would be disastrous. All this while, the people in this world depended on their abilities to kill, and everything they had depended on their abilities to achieve. But if guns pose same level of lethality as in his previous world, things would change because the control over people's death in this world is less. Even though he could control the exposure of the weapon, he didn't want to take a chance. But he slowly lost the compassion to the people in this world after spending all this time and meeting these people. The second reason is, guns are too addictive to him. Towards cold weapon, Sam has endless adoration and admiration along with respect. For him, all kinds of cold weapons, they might be some swords, spears, claws, etc. They're like true love. Using them is like having a better half. You would be going through all kinds of tribulations with them, and them being with you will give you courage and satisfaction at the same time. It is like having a wife. But guns and explosives, they are like a mistress. Using for satisfying the carnal desires like animals, without involving many emotions and just using it for some temporary satisfaction for some specific times. There are no strings attached. He can never replace a sword's position in his heart, if he made one himself. But guns are different. Every gun is a different kind of vixen. He likes to enjoy the satisfaction of using one, and he doesn't get attached to it emotionally, except if those guns are really, really special ones. But the problem is one can get addicted to the vixens and desire to enjoy the pleasure repeatedly. If he starts shooting, he will desire to enjoy to his heart's content. At first, he didn't have that many enemies. But now, he is gaining more and more people on his hostile side, and having these guns might be helpful. But before making some for his personal use, he will make some average shooting devices to make some quick cash. If doesn't make the military bleed some money and blood for what they did to him and his teammates, he can't sleep peacefully. For these 15 days, his patience is stretched thin, and he almost broke several times. Now that he knew the extent of the other party's determination to hinder him, he could shed all his cordiality. Right now, he is full of evil intent. If not for the fact that he is not strong enough and he personally wants to teach the general a lesson with brute force, he would be with his shadow mice on his way to deal with that old man. He is at his breaking point. One more push and he would make designs to kill that general. His team lost almost 100 points without even doing anything. After entering the estate, Sam sent everyone to the mansion while he stayed outside as he looked at the impact crystal. He has some ideas on how to use these worthless things to make some money out of the military. Not only for now, but also for a near future. And he can save the best for himself. Before that, he has to do something, and that is to extract the crystal. The main problem of these crystals is that extracting them is actually quite difficult. These crystals are just like piezoelectric materials from the modern Earth. Those piezoelectric materials use the mechanical vibrations and convert them to electric energy. But these impact crystals can change any kind of physical force acting on it, the kinetic energy, the strong impact of wind force, the water force, even the pure impact strike of normal physical force, which makes it absorb the surrounding spiritual energy. After the spiritual energy reaches the crystal's limit, it would explode and completely disintegrates into the thin air if it didn't find a proper outlet. There is only one way to extract the crystal, and that is to melt it with a high temperature fire and collect it when it is in the liquid state. This is the most feasible method, and if there are any other methods, and that is to collect the whole part of the earth as one, and throw it away, which is almost impossible. Sam placed his hand on one of the crystal protrusions, which is as tall as a tree. He started using his observation ability, and he is handling the spiritual energy so delicately so that it would not absorb any of it. He is trying to probe the whole department of it, and when he was finally done, he was stunned. The impact crystal occupied almost more than 20 meters below the surface. This will make this whole place a large pit after extracting the whole crystal. And the whole estate is of 1,000 acres. That is a whole lot of impact crystals. And he is planning to make it into a whole lot of money. He started making his preparations. His main advantage is that he has an unlimited access to the artisan tower. That is more than enough for his plans. He went inside the house and entered his personal room, and then entered the Divine Dimension's second floor. His time is a lot valuable now. He has to report back to the camp before morning. First, he imagined the design of the product inside his head, and then after that he simulated everything in the second floor simulation mode. After more than 20 trial and errors, he finally got the satisfied result. Sam took out some scrolls and started drawing his new design. The design is mainly of various dies for the hand press. For his next plans, he would need a lot of casings, which in turn requires a lot of dies. After making some required dies and molds, he went to the boz.ement and started taking out the equipment which his teammates would use in near future. He gave the scrolls and a list of materials which they would need to watt. Along with that, he wrote a letter along with his spiritual signature and his artisan badge. With this, Watt's words would be equal to his, and there is no way that he cannot buy these things from the artisan tower. He sent Watt while he went to the yard. He has to collect the crystals with his own methods, and that is powder disintegration. Sam closed his eyes and started his operation from near his heart. Since the melting point of this crystal is quite high, it would be quite troublesome for him to do the regular method. It is still a little earlier than afternoon. If he can use this time, he can clear off several yards before the reporting time. Sam placed his hands on the crystal and started turning it into the powder, while throwing the powder directly into the storage. Since the crystal structure is not that complicated and the crystal properties are mostly due to its molecular nature instead of granular structure, he has no qualms on turning it into powder. So, for the whole day, Sam just cleared the space around his mansion. He even ate while doing so, and even after Watt came back with the required material, he called up on his teammates of the business side and explained the procedure on how to operate the machines to them while clearing the crystal.